All right. Hey, folks, we are back. We're still at NG Atlanta. Real quick shout out to Progress, makers of Kendo UI, for sponsoring my way out here and giving me the opportunity to talk to cool people like Mike. Mike, how's it going?
Good. How's it going?
It's going all right. Now, I came out here, I kind of lined up some things with some of the speakers, but then I meet people and I'm like, we should talk.
Yeah, definitely. It's always fun.
Yeah. So, Ionic, what's going on with Ionic these days?
So we've been hard at work at our 4.0 version. Hopefully having that out soon. You know, insert random GIF of someone saying soon.
Right.
But it's essentially we moved the core of Ionic and all of its components to web components with our own renderer called Stencil. So we're hoping to get support for not only Angular, which has support for web components, but other frameworks or even no framework at all.
Right.
So it'll be a lot faster to maintain these components, and also open us up to, like I said, not just Angular, but a whole new world of JavaScript frameworks and whatever ones may come tomorrow.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, what does it take to move everything off into its own component?
It actually wasn't as hard as one would think. We modeled the Stencil API pretty close to the Angular component API.
Oh, okay.
So it's isolated around a decorator called component, and then it's a class. The only difference that we have is where we were using ng4, we switched it out because Stencil will use a JSX transform. So something you're more familiar with people from React.
Right.
And it will iterate over that and create like the virtual DOM nodes and all the transforms that we need. So all we really needed to modify were the template files. All the components and all the class actually moved over pretty easily. Having done a few of them myself, it was pretty straightforward.
Right.
Yeah.
So, does it change things materially then, as far as using Ionic and just, kind of coming from Angular and having it feel normal and natural then?
Yeah, it comes pretty natural. Nothing really changes too much. There's some different things because it's web components. It has a concept of slots. So they're similar concepts in Angular, and I'm blanking on the name for it. But it's essentially a way to say for a component, I want to render in a specific DOM location.
Okay.
So now we can start having some fine-grained control and say, render this to the left of this item and then this to the right of the item. So we have some markup changes, and then package name has changed a little bit. But other than that, we think that the upgrade process will be approachable for everyone and integrate better with the Angular ecosystem. Actually, we switched out our own tooling so that way we can use the Angular CLI. And
oh, nice.
So so that way we can take advantage of all the hard work people like Brocky and Hans are doing.
Yep. Yeah, I love seeing that work. And yeah, if I only have to use one tool, why not?
Right. It's a lot of duplicated effort when, we don't need it.
Yep. So, I guess the other question is does this make it easier or harder for me to reuse code from my existing Angular app?
I think it makes it a lot easier because of the way it'll get set up. The components themselves exist outside of that Angular package format. So we're not importing any modules for, say, like a list item.
Right.
The list item can be used without having to import all of Ionic. So if you have a current Angular app and you want to use lists and you want to use items without having to import all of the additional components, it's a script tag, and they all get lazy loaded as they're requested. So we have the benefit of smaller code footprints and faster and more efficient loading because they're all lazily loaded.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So if people want to start with Angular, do they just npm install, or Angular, if they want to start with Ionic, do they just npm install Ionic? Or?
Yeah, so if they want to start right now, npm install -g Ionic, and it'll give them the CLI, and then they'll go through and can run Ionic start and get a nice prompt to set up the project. When we get the 4.0 out and the new tooling, they'll get either an option for Angular currently, or in the future, maybe React or Vue. But then they'll also get a standard Angular CLI project and have all the tooling that they're familiar with in the Angular world.
Nice. So I have to ask, I've wondered this for a while, and I think I know part of the answer, but, Ionic is paying you, right? It's a business, so where does the money come from?
So Ionic itself focuses on the developer lifecycle, where you're constantly having to write an app, deploy it, fix an update it, or fix a bug, redeploy, and then continue that cycle. So our services focus on not only getting you started with prototyping with Creator, but building that native binary that you can deploy to the device with package, handling live code updates with our tool called Deploy, and then eventually we have more services that we want to work on, one for monitoring, so we can get live error tracking, and then also, possibly some PWA hosting for the people who want to do progressive web apps with Ionic as well.
That's awesome. So essentially you're providing people with an entire ecosystem for basically not having to be super knowledgeable about how the mobile ecosystem works.
Right, and it's less of an ecosystem, but more of just that, I said it already, but life cycle. They can continue that app development and know that at any stage of that development, Ionic has a service that'll help them out.
Makes sense. Yeah, I've pushed one iOS app one time.
And it's a pain.
And it was a royal pain. So
just when you have to deal with certificates and provisioning profiles.
Yep.
And for people who've never done that before, I've done it like 3 or 4 times within the past year. And each time it's been a little bit different. And their interface is constantly updating. It's like, I don't want to deal with this. I just want to build something.
Yeah. So Ionic makes a lot of that pain go away.
Yeah. We manage a lot of it and help you and hold your hand along the way, so you're not having to deal with the painful parts of Apple.
I would pay somebody to make that pain go away. So, makes a ton of sense. Is there anything else people should know about Ionic before we wrap this up?
Yeah, if they want to follow along, come by the booth. They'll be at the conference. But check out our website, ionicframework.com. We'll be posting updates for our 4.0 release. And check out stenciljs.com if you want to learn more about Stencil.
Yep. In fact, I'm going to be releasing the Angular Dev Summit videos probably within the next month or two. And
nice.
You gave a talk on Stencil there, so
I did an early version of Stencil. Still pretty much still pretty much applicable.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.